The alert came at the worst possible time. Overseer Mira was finishing her third cup of stimulant tea when her console started screaming. She spilled the hot liquid across her desk and cursed under her breath. In her 40 years of watching the Outer Rim, nothing interesting had ever happened. The Korath wormhole was a dead zone. No trade, no traffic, just empty space and the occasional comet. She wiped her hands and pulled up the sensor data. Something had come through the wormhole. Something big. Mira leaned forward and studied the readings. The object was moving fast. Too fast. Velen cruisers could manage 0.3 light speed at maximum burn. This thing was pushing 0.7 and still accelerating. She ran the identification protocols 3 times. Each time, the computer gave her the same answer. Unknown vessel. No match in database. That was impossible. The Velen Empire had cataloged every ship design from every species in the known galaxy. They had been doing it for 3,000 years. Nothing flew through their space without them knowing exactly what it was. Mira zoomed in on the visual feed. The ship was beautiful in a strange way. It was shaped like a blade, long and narrow, with no visible weapons ports. The hull was dark gray, almost black, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were no markings she could recognize. She opened a channel to High Command. Admiral Gorin answered on the second ping. His face filled her screen, all sharp angles and cold eyes. Gorin had commanded the Imperial fleet for 60 years. He did not like surprises. "Report," he said. "Unknown vessel, Admiral. It came through the Korath Gate approximately 4 minutes ago. Speed is beyond anything in our records. Hull composition unknown. Energy signature is strange. Strange how?" Mira hesitated. "It appears to be running on controlled fusion, Admiral. But the efficiency is impossible. Their reactor should have melted by now." Gorin's expression did not change, but she saw his jaw tighten. Origin. Working on it. Mira pulled up the signal analysis. The ship was broadcasting something. A simple radio wave, easy to decode. She fed it through the translator and felt her blood turn cold. The message was in Galactic Common. Broken and imperfect, but understandable. Earth vessel Taiwa. Peaceful exploration. Requesting navigation data. Mira read it again. Then a third time. The words did not change. "Admiral," she said slowly, "the ship claims to be from Earth." For the first time in her career, she saw Gorin look confused. "Earth. The quarantine world." "Yes, Admiral. That is not possible. Earth is a Category 9 civilization. They barely reached their own moon 50 years ago. They cannot have wormhole capability." "I agree, Admiral. But the message is clear." Gorin was silent for a long moment. Behind him, Mira could see other officers moving, talking in urgent whispers. The news was spreading fast. "Track the vessel," Gorin said finally. "Do not engage. I am calling an emergency session of High Command. Keep me informed of any changes." The screen went dark. Mira turned back to her sensors and watched the impossible ship continue. Its journey deeper into Velen space, far across the galaxy. Aboard the ESV Taiwa, Captain Una Park stood on the bridge and studied the stars. They looked different here, brighter, closer. She had spent her entire life looking up at the night sky and wondering what was out there. Now she knew, Captain. Lieutenant Tehan's voice was calm and steady, as always. "We are being tracked. Multiple sensor sweeps from a station near the wormhole exit." Una nodded. "Expected. Any response to our message?" "Not yet." She turned to face her crew. The bridge of the Taiwa was small compared to the massive vessel she had seen in the Velen surveillance images. Just 20 people working in quiet efficiency? But those 20 people represented the best humanity had to offer. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, all of them volunteers. All of them willing to die for this mission. "Right. They are scared," Una said. "They have controlled this galaxy for 3,000 years. They have never seen anything they could not explain. And now we show up." Dr. Sukim looked up from her translation console. "The Velen language is fascinating, Captain. Very hierarchical. They have 17 different words for inferior species. They have no word for equal. Then we will teach them one. Ensign Hanacho raised her hand. She was the youngest member of the crew, barely 25, but she had a gift for communication that no one else could match. Captain, I am picking up increased chatter on their military frequencies. They are mobilizing something, Yuna smiled. Good. That means they are taking us seriously. She walked to the main viewport and looked out at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were living their lives under Velen rule. They had been told that humans were primitive, weak, barely worth noticing. They were about to learn the truth. 200 years, Yuna said quietly. 200 years we spent preparing for this moment. We detected their satellites watching us. We intercepted their transmissions. We learned their language, their technology, their weaknesses. They thought we were children playing with fire. They never imagined we could build our own sun. Lieutenant Tay stepped forward. Orders, Captain? Yuna turned to face him. Her eyes were hard, but her voice was gentle. Continue on our current heading. Broadcast our peaceful intentions every 10 minutes. If they attack, we respond with minimum force. We are not here to start a war, and if they will not listen... Yuna looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velen admirals were gathering. The politicians were arguing. The scholars were running their calculations and finding answers they could not accept. They will listen, she said. They have no choice. Because for the first time in 3,000 years, someone has knocked on their door, and we are not going away. The Taiwa continued its journey, a single dark blade cutting through the endless night. Behind it, the Velen Empire began to wake up to a truth they had never considered. They were not alone. They had never been alone. And the species they had dismissed as primitive was coming to say hello. The galaxy would never be the same. Scholar Fen had not slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned and his hands shook as he scrolled through the data on his screen. He had spent his entire career studying alien technology. He had written 14 books on the subject. He had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. He had never seen anything like this. The human ship sat at the center of his holographic display, rotating slowly. Every time he thought he understood something about it, he found another mystery. The whole was made of materials that should not exist together. The power systems broke fundamental laws of physics. The propulsion drive was a work of mad genius. Chancellor Bell stood behind him, waiting. The leader of the Velen Imperial Council was not a patient being, but even he understood that some things could not be rushed. Bell asked, "What have you found?" Fen took a deep breath. "Chancellor, I do not know how to explain this. The human ship is approximately 2,000 years ahead of where their technology should be. Impossible. We have watched them. They are primitive. I know what our reports say." Fen pulled up a comparison chart. "Look at this. A standard Velen warship uses distributed power cells throughout the hull. It is inefficient, but safe. The human ship uses a single compact fusion reactor that provides more energy than our largest battle station." El frowned. "How is that possible? It should not be. A reactor that's small should overheat and explode within minutes. But they have solved the cooling problem in a way I cannot understand. Their engineering is completely different from ours. They did not copy anyone. They invented everything from nothing." Admiral Gorin entered the room without knocking. His face was grim. The human ship has not changed course. It is heading toward the inner territories. "We should destroy it," Bell said immediately, "before it reaches any populated worlds." "With what?" Gorin asked. "Our fastest ships cannot catch it. Our weapons cannot penetrate that hull. I ran the simulations. We would need the entire Fourth Fleet just to slow it down." Fen cleared his throat. "There is something else, Chancellor. The ship has weapons. They are hidden, but our thermal scans detected them. Based on the energy readings, a single shot from their main gun could destroy a small moon."
Ow.
The room went silent. Bell sat down heavily in the nearest chair. His face had turned pale. "How?" he whispered. "How did this happen? We watched them for centuries. They were supposed to be nothing." Far away aboard the Taiwa, Engineer Dae-yoon was explaining exactly how it had happened. The senior crew had gathered in the mess hall for their evening meal. Captain Yuna had ordered everyone to rest, but no one could sleep. They were all too excited, too nervous, too aware that they were making history with every passing second. Started with the satellites, Day said between bites of rice. When we first detected them in orbit around Earth, we thought we had finally found proof of alien life. We celebrated for months. Then we decoded their transmissions. Ensign Hannah leaned forward. What did they say? Nothing good. They were observing us, cataloging us, rating us. We found the report they sent back to their empire. Category 9, civilization. Primitive. No threat. Recommend continued observation, but no contact. Dr. Sue shook her head slowly. They thought we were animals in a zoo. Exactly. Day's expression darkened. That was the moment everything changed. The world governments came together for the first time in human history. Not to fight each other, to prepare. Lieutenant Tay nodded. The hidden century. 150 years of secret development. Every scientist, every engineer, every resource we had, all focused on a single goal: build something that would make them notice us. Commander Hyen Lee spoke up from the corner of the room. He was older than the others, with scars on his hands and a hard look in his eyes. I remember the early days, the failures, the accidents. We lost good people trying to crack their technology. But we did crack it, Day said proudly. And then we improved it. The Taiwa is not a copy of their ships. It is something new, something better, something human. Captain Yuna had been listening quietly. Now she stood up and walked to the viewport. The stars stretched out before her like diamonds on black velvet. We could have hidden, she said. We could have stayed on Earth, developed our technology in secret, built an army to defend ourselves. That was the original plan. What changed? Hannah asked. While UNA turned to face them.
I did.
When they made me captain, they asked me what kind of mission I wanted. War or peace? I chose peace, and if they do not want peace... Yuna smiled, but there was steel behind it. Then they will learn that humans do not surrender. We do not bow. We do not break. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly ended our species. We will survive this too. Back at Velen High Command, Admiral Gorin was giving orders. His voice echoed through the chamber as officers ran to their stations. The 4th Fleet will intercept the human vessel at the Narath corridor. 400 ships. Full combat readiness. Chancellor Bell looked uncertain. Is that wise? You said yourself that we cannot match their technology. We do not need to match it. We need to overwhelm it. Even the most advanced ship cannot fight 400 enemies at once. Scholar Fenn raised his hand. Admiral, I must advise caution. We do not fully understand their capabilities. If we attack and fail, we may provoke a response we cannot handle. Gorin turned cold eyes on the scholar. I am not asking for your advice. I am telling you what will happen. The humans came to our galaxy uninvited. They will be dealt with. Strode out of the room, leaving silence behind him. Fenn looked at Chancellor Bell. This is a mistake, he said quietly. Bell did not respond. But deep down, in a place he did not want to examine, he was beginning to agree. 400 ships against one. The numbers were overwhelming. The outcome should have been certain, but nothing about the humans had been certain so far. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the Taiwa continued its journey, carrying with it the hopes and fears of an entire world. The first battle was coming, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity did not play by anyone else's rules. The Norath corridor was one of the most important passages in the Velen Empire. Every day, thousands of ships traveled through it, carrying goods and passengers between the inner and outer territories. Today it was empty. Every civilian vessel had been ordered to leave. The only ships remaining were warships, 400 of them. Fleet Captain Da stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and watched his forces arrange themselves. He had commanded fleets for 30 years, He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. He had never lost a battle. He did not intend to start today. The human ship will arrive in 12 minutes, his tactical officer reported. It has not changed course or speed. Das nodded. Arrogant. They think they can fly straight through our formation. Perhaps they do not realize how many ships are waiting for them. They will learn. Das opened a channel to all vessels. All ships, prepare to engage on my command. Remember, we want the vessel intact if possible. Disable their engines first, aboard the Tiwa. The mood was tense but calm. Captain Yuna stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. 400 red dots surrounded their projected path. Each dot was a Velen warship. Each warship carried enough firepower to glass a continent. Well, Commander Han said dryly, they certainly brought enough friends. Lieutenant Tay turned from his console. Captain, they are attempting to establish communication. Put it through. Fleet Captain Das appeared on the main screen. He was tall and broad, with the dark blue skin common to Velen military caste. His expression was cold and confident. Human vessel, he said. You have entered restricted Velen space without authorization. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your ship will be impounded. Your crew will be detained for questioning. This is not a request. Yuna let him finish. Then she smiled. Fleet Captain, my name is Yuna Park. I am the commander of this vessel. We came here in peace, seeking friendship with your people. We have no desire for conflict. Das laughed. It was not a kind sound. Peace. You invaded our territory with a warship, and you speak of peace? This is not a warship. It is an exploration vessel. The weapons it carries are for defense only. Then you will have no problem surrendering them. Yuna's smile faded. I am afraid that is not possible. We will not be boarded. We will not be detained. We will continue on our course and attempt to establish diplomatic relations with your government. If you allow us to pass, no one needs to be hurt. Das leaned forward. You are one ship. I have 400. What exactly do you think you can do? Yuna looked at Commander Heian. Something passed between them, an understanding built on years of training and preparation. Heian nodded once and turned to his weapons console. Fleet Captain, Yuna said quietly, I am asking you one more time. Stand down. Let us pass. Do not make this mistake. Das, cut the transmission without another word. We're ordering the first attack wave, Tay reported. 50 ships approaching, at combat speed. They will be in weapons range in 45 seconds. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. She had hoped it would not come to this. But hope was not a strategy. Commander Hoon ready, Captain. Minimum force. Disable only. No kills unless absolutely necessary. Understood. The first Velen ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy lanced through space toward the Taiwa. They never arrived. The human ship simply was not there anymore. It had moved faster than any sensor could track, appearing behind the attack formation in an instant. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Dot stared at his display in disbelief. What just happened? Where did they go? Before anyone could answer, the Taiwa fired. The weapon was unlike anything the Velen had ever seen. It did not shoot energy beams or missiles. Instead, it bent space itself, creating a focused gravitational wave that washed over the nearest ships. Power cores shut down. Weapons went offline. Navigation systems failed. In less than 2 minutes, 47 Velen warships were drifting dead in space. Their crews were alive and unharmed, but their vessels were completely disabled. Years of repairs would be needed to make them functional again. Das shouted, What happened to our ships? Unknown weapons, sir. It appears to have disrupted all electrical systems simultaneously. The crews are alive, but the ships are. Are what? Gone, sir. The ships are gone as combat units. Das felt something cold settle in his stomach. Fear. An emotion he had not experienced in decades. Captain, Yuna's face, appeared on his screen again. She was not smiling now. Fleet Captain, I have just demonstrated what we can do. That was a fraction of our capability. We chose to disable your ships instead of destroying them. We chose to spare your crews instead of killing them. We made that choice because we are not your enemies. We do not want war." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But if you continue this attack, we will defend ourselves, and you will lose. Not some of your ships. All of them. Do you understand?" Das was silent. Around him, his officers were staring at their displays with wide eyes. The impossible had happened. A single ship had humiliated the Fourth Fleet without breaking a sweat. "All ships," Das said heavily, "stand down. Fall back to defensive positions." On the Taiwa, there was no celebration, no cheering. The crew knew that this was only the beginning. They had won the first battle, but the war for respect had just started. "Continue on our course," Una ordered. "Maintain peaceful broadcasting. Let them know we are still willing to talk." As the human ship continued its journey through Velen space, Admiral Gorin watched the battle footage in his command center. His face showed no expression, but his hands were shaking. "What have we awakened?" he whispered to himself. Beside him, Overseer Mira spoke the truth that no one wanted to hear. "They were never sleeping, Admiral. They were watching us, learning us, preparing for the day when they would finally reveal themselves. We thought we were the hunters. We were wrong. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity was just getting started." The Velen Imperial Council chamber was the largest room in the galaxy. It could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was full. Senators, generals, scholars, and nobles had gathered from every corner of the empire. They had come to decide the fate of worlds. Chancellor Bell stood at the central podium, looking out at the sea of faces. He had never seen so much fear in one place. "The facts are clear," he began. "A human vessel has entered our space. It has defeated a fleet of 400 ships without taking a single casualty. It continues to travel toward our core worlds, broadcasting messages of peace. Peace." Senator Vorn jumped to his feet. His voice was loud and angry. "They attack our ships and speak of peace. This is an invasion. We must mobilize the Grand Armada and destroy them before they reach the homeworld." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber, but not everyone was convinced. Elder Nall raised his hand. The chamber fell silent immediately. Nall was the oldest member of the council. He had served for 200 years. He had seen things that others could only read about in history books. Senator Vorn Nall said slowly, "You speak of war. Do you remember the last war we fought against a determined enemy?" Vorn hesitated. "The Kareth Uprising. But that was different. The Kareth were a powerful species with many allies, and yet they still almost defeated us. It took 100 years and billions of lives to end that conflict." Nall stood up, his old bones creaking with the effort. "What do we actually know about these humans?" Admiral Gorin stepped forward. "We know they are dangerous. Their technology is beyond anything we have seen. That is what they can do." I asked who they are. Nall looked around the chamber. "We have observed Earth for 5 centuries. What have we learned about their culture? Their history? Their values?" "Silence. Nothing," Nall said bitterly. "We counted their weapons and measured their buildings, but we never tried to understand them. And now we face the consequences of our arrogance." Far away aboard the Taiwa, Dr. Borishin was telling a different story. The crew had gathered in the observation lounge, a small room with a large window that looked out at the stars. They were tired. The battle had taken more out of them than they wanted to admit. Not physical exhaustion, but emotional. They had disabled 47 ships. They had nearly killed thousands of beings who had never done anything wrong, except follow orders. "Tell us about Earth, Ensign," Hannah asked quietly. "I know the history, we all do. But tell us anyway." Bora was the ship's historian. She had spent her life studying the past, trying to understand how humanity had become what it was. She closed her eyes and began to speak. "We almost destroyed ourselves. Twice. The first time was with nuclear weapons. We built bombs that could end all life on the planet, and we came within minutes of using them. We pulled back from the edge, but barely. And the second time?" Tay asked. Climate. We poisoned our own world because we were too greedy to stop. Billions died. Entire nations disappeared under the water. For a while, it looked like Earth would become a dead planet. But we survived, Hune said. Yes, we survived. And we learned. Bora opened her eyes. That is what makes us different, I think. We have seen the worst of ourselves. We have stared into the darkness and pulled ourselves back. Every time we fell, we got up again. Every time we failed, we tried harder. Captain Yuna spoke from the doorway. No one had noticed her arrive. That is why we chose not to kill. Because we know what it means to destroy. We have done it. We have lived with the guilt. We refuse to do it again, unless there is no other choice. In the council chamber, Elder Null was making a similar argument. The humans disabled our ships. They could have destroyed them. They killed no one. They continue to ask for peace. Look directly at Admiral Gorin. Does that sound like the behavior of an invading force? Gorin said nothing. Propose a different approach. Null continued. We send an envoy. We meet with these humans directly. We learn who they are and what they want. If they truly desire war, we will know soon enough. But if they want peace, we may have found something far more valuable than another enemy. Chancellor Bell nodded slowly. Who would lead such a mission? All eyes turned to Overseer Myra. She had been standing at the edge of the chamber, trying to remain invisible. Now she found herself at the center of attention. You have studied them longer than anyone, Bell said. You detected their ship. You heard their messages. You are the logical choice. Mira's mouth went dry. Chancellor, I am an analyst. I am not trained for diplomacy. None of us are trained for this situation. But you understand the humans better than anyone. You have read their broadcasts. You have analyzed their behavior. If anyone can communicate with them, it is you. Mira thought about the human captain she had seen on the footage, the calm confidence, the steady voice, the choice to spare lives when she could have taken them. What kind of species builds warships that choose not to kill? I will do it, Myra said quietly. I will meet with them. A message was sent to the Taiwa, a request for a meeting. A chance at peace, Captain Yuna read the message twice before responding. She chose her words carefully. We accept your proposal. We will meet at a location of our choosing, a place where the consequences of empire are visible, a reminder of what happens when powerful species forget mercy. She transmitted the coordinates. The Hollow of Ash, the graveyard of the Morith civilization. 800 years ago, the Velen Empire had destroyed the Moroth completely. Every ship, every station, every colony. Nothing remained but wreckage and memories. It was time for the Velen to remember what they had done, and it was time for humanity to show them a different path. The Hollow of Ash was exactly as terrible as Mira had feared. Her shuttle passed through fields of debris that stretched for millions of kilometers. Broken ships. Shattered stations. The frozen bodies of beings who had died screaming 800 years ago. The Morith had been a proud species, artists and philosophers who had dared to challenge Velen authority. They had been erased from existence, and the humans had chosen this place for their meeting. Mira understood the message. She just was not sure she was ready to hear it. The Taiwa floated at the center of the graveyard, its dark hull almost invisible against the backdrop of destruction. As Myra's shuttle approached, she studied the ship that had defeated 400 warships without killing a single being. It looked so small, so fragile. She knew better now. The docking was smooth and professional. Lieutenant Tay met her at the airlock and escorted her through corridors that were surprisingly warm and welcoming. Soft lighting, plants growing in wall-mounted containers, pictures and artwork that seemed to celebrate life rather than conquest. Not what she had expected from a species that had built such a powerful weapon. The meeting room was small and simple. A round table with 6 chairs, a window that looked out at the endless field of Morith wreckage. Captain Yuna Park stood near the window, her hands clasped behind her back. Ambassador Jin Beek sat at the table, a gentle smile on his face. Dr. Su Kim stood to the side, ready to help with any translation issues, and on the table there was a pot of some kind of hot liquid, along with several small cups. "Overseer Mira," Captain Yuna said, "thank you for coming. Thank you for meeting with me." Myra's voice was steady, but her hearts were racing. "I confess, I was not sure what to expect. Please, sit." Ambassador Jin gestured to a chair. "Would you like some tea? It is a traditional drink on our world. We share it with guests as a sign of hospitality." Mira sat down carefully. The chair was designed for Velen bodies, she realized. They had prepared for her specifically. She accepted a cup of the tea and took a small sip. It was bitter and sweet at the same time, with a warmth that spread through her chest. "It is good," she admitted. "Different from anything I have tasted before." "That is humanity in a cup," Jin said with a soft laugh. "Bitter and sweet. Complex. Take some getting used to." Captain Yuna sat down across from Myra. Her eyes were kind, but there was steel behind them. This was a woman who had made hard choices and would make them again if necessary. "You have questions," Yuna said. "Ask them." Mira set down her cup. "Why did you come?" "You must have known the risk. You must have known that we might try to destroy you." "We knew." "Then why?" Yuna was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Because we were tired of being afraid. For 200 years, we hid on our little planet, watching your satellites circle our sky, knowing that you could crush us whenever you wanted. We built weapons. We prepared for war. But that is no way to live. So you decided to reveal yourselves. We decided to stop hiding, to stop waiting for you to decide our fate." Yuna leaned forward. "We came here to show you who we are. Not enemies. Not conquerors. Just another species trying to find its place in the universe." Ambassador Jin took over, his voice calm and diplomatic. "We are offering partnership, technology exchange, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs. We want to join the galactic community as equals, not as subordinates." Mira shook her head slowly. "You do not understand how our empire works. We do not have equals. We have rulers and ruled, superior and inferior. That is how it has always been. Always is a long time," Dr. Su said quietly. "Perhaps it is time for change." Mira looked out the window at the Moroth wreckage. Millions of beings had died here because they had challenged the established order. Her empire had done this. "Her people, why did you choose this place for our meeting?" she asked. Yuna stood and walked to the window. 800 years ago, the Moroth species existed. They had art, music, dreams, children who laughed, and elders who told stories. All of it is gone now. Your empire decided that they were a threat, and so they were destroyed. I know our history, do you? Yuna turned to face her. Do you look at this wreckage and feel proud? Or do you feel something else? Mira did not answer. She did not need to. The shame was written on her face. We could become like you, Yuna said. We have the power now. We could conquer worlds. We could build an empire of our own. We could create our own graveyards. She shook her head. But we choose not to. Because we have seen what that kind of power does to a species. It turns them into monsters. She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small data device. She placed it on the table in front of Mira. This contains the complete technical specifications of the Taiwa, our propulsion systems, our weapons, our shields, everything. Mira stared at the device. You would give us this? We could use it against you. You could, Yuna smiled. But you will not. Because now you know who we are. You have seen that we chose mercy when we could have chosen death. And I think deep down you want to be the kind of species that makes that choice too. Mira picked up the device. Her hands were trembling. I will recommend that the council accept your terms. I cannot promise they will listen. That is all we ask. A chance? The meeting lasted another 3 hours. Details were discussed. Concerns were raised and addressed. By the end, they had the foundation of an agreement that would reshape the galaxy. 1 year later, the Treaty of Ash was signed. Human ships traveled freely through Velen space. Velen scholars visited Earth's universities. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy had room for more than one voice. Engineer Dayun stood on a balcony overlooking the first joint. Human Velen, research station. Ships from both species came and went, working together on projects that neither could have completed alone. Captain Yuna joined him, 2 cups of tea in her hands. "We did it," Day said quietly. "We actually did it." Yuna handed him a cup and looked up at the stars. "This is just the beginning. There is a whole galaxy out there waiting to be explored. And now, we get to do it together." Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Taiwa continued its journey, but it was no longer alone. It never would be again. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had helped change it, not through conquest, not through fear, but through the simple, stubborn belief that tomorrow could be better than today. That was the human way. And now, it was the galaxy's way too.